All right, so today we're diving into the world of robotics,
Okay.
and specifically we're going to be looking at the GR-2.
Right.
This is the latest humanoid robot from a company called Fourier Robotics. They're based out of Shanghai.
Yeah, I've been really interested to see what they've been doing. They're really pushing the boundaries in the field,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
this GR2, it seems like a really big step forward.
It is. It's really interesting when you look at like where they came from. We talked about their previous model, the GR-1, a little while ago,
Mm.
and this one is such a departure. They're really going for a much more, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing
Yeah.
kind of design with this one. Less like, look at the mechanics, it's more like this sleek.
Right. It's like they've gone from like a concept car to like a production model or some,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. And they really seem to be focusing on this idea of integrating these robots
Yeah.
into like everyday life, healthcare, even helping out at home eventually.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the things that Fourier Robotics has said from the beginning. Like, their goal is to design these robots specifically for those environments,
Right.
not to be, working in factories or something like that, but to actually be.
Yeah, like companions almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of wild when you think about it.
It is wild. I mean, when I first saw the pictures of this thing, I was like, is that real? Is that CGI?
Yeah, it looks like something out of a movie.
Yeah, and they're saying that this GR2s is like almost 5'9".
Yeah, 175 centimeters. It's pretty substantial.
That's a presence. You know what I mean?
Definitely. That's not like a little toy robot. That's, like you said, it's a presence.
Exactly. And I think that that plays into, what they're going for.
Yeah, makes sense.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the hands, because I was looking at the pictures. Those hands are insane.
The hands are incredible. Like, they really put a lot of work into making them look and function like human hands.
Yeah, because they're not just like claws or pincers. These are 5-fingered hands.
5 fingers. Yeah, with 12
Yeah.
degrees of freedom, which is pretty amazing.
So you're saying like each finger can move independently.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it gives them this incredible dexterity,
Oh.
Like, they could pick up a pin, or they could probably, like, throw a baseball or something.
Okay, so it's not just about like being delicate, it's about having that range of motor.
It's the range of motion that's really impressive.
So when you have that dexterity, what's the point of just having, a really flexible hand if it doesn't know what it's touching?
Right, right. And that's where the sensors come in.
Okay.
I mean, those are really the key to this whole thing.
So what kind of sensors are we talking about here?
Oh, each hand has got 6, they call them array-type tactile
What
sensors.
does that even mean?
Basically, it means the robot can, like, feel what it's touching. It can sense the force, the shape of the object, even what it's made out of.
So it's not just grabbing blindly.
No, not at all.
It's actually sensing and adjusting its grip.
Exactly.
Huh.
It's like if you close your eyes and pick something up, you can still tell if it's heavy or light or what shape it is, right?
Right.
It's kind of like that,
Right.
but even more precise, I think.
So then all of that movement and the dexterity and the sensing, it all comes down to the stuff that's actually making it move, right?
Yeah, the actuators, they're pretty special.
So tell me about them, because I'm not a robotics engineer. Break it down for me.
Sure. So these are called FSA 2.0 actuators,
Mm-hmm.
and they're designed specifically for the GR2. And what's really cool about them is that they can deliver just the right amount of torque to each joint.
Okay, so now I'm hearing the word torque and I'm thinking like car engine.
Right, yeah. Well, torque is basically rotational force. It's what allows the robot to actually move its limbs with enough power to do stuff.
So it's not just about moving, it's about moving with a purpose.
Right. And it's about moving precisely.
Which is also important.
Oh, yeah. Especially if this robot's going to be working with people, you don't want it to be jerky or anything like that.
No, you want it to be smooth and controlled.
Exactly. And that's where the dual encoder system comes in. It's like having really good coordination.
Interesting. Okay, so that's how they make sure that the movements are precise and not just powerful.
Yeah, it's like a delicate dance between power and precision.
I like that, a delicate dance.
That's what it is.
But there's something else about the GR2 that I think is super cool, and that's this whole modular design concept.
Yeah, that's a really smart move on their part.
Okay, so for our listeners who might not be familiar with this whole modular thing, explain why that's a big deal.
Well, think of it like building with Legos, right?
Yeah.
Each part of the robot can be easily put together, taken apart, and even swapped out for different parts.
So it's customizable.
Exactly. Need longer arms for a specific task? No problem. Just swap them out for longer ones.
Yeah.
It makes manufacturing easier, it makes repairs easier, and it makes the robot way more versatile.
Okay, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all robot.
Right. It's like the Swiss Army knife of robots.
I like that a lot. So we've got the sleek design, the dexterous hands, the powerful yet precise movements, and now this whole modular thing. It's pretty amazing
Yeah,
stuff.
they've really outdone themselves with this one.
Yeah.
But, this is just the beginning. The really cool stuff starts when you look at the AI.
Right, because it's one thing to have a robot that can move around and manipulate objects,
Yeah,
but it's a whole other ball game to have one that can actually learn and adapt, right?
exactly.
And that's what we're going to be talking about in the next part of our deep dive into the GR2, the brains behind all this brawn. So we left off talking about the modular design,
Right.
which is amazing, but now I want to get into the AI because this is where things get really, really interesting.
It is.
So when we talk about the GR2's AI, what are we actually talking about?
Well, it's not just about like programming the robot to do specific tasks.
Right, because that's what we've seen in the past, right?
Exactly. This is different.
Okay.
Fourier is trying to build an AI that can actually learn and adapt.
So how does that work? How do you teach a robot to learn?
Well, they're using a few different methods, and it's kind of blowing my mind. One of them is actually VR remote control.
VR, like I put on the headset.
Yeah, exactly. You put on the headset, and you can actually show the robot how to do something like you're controlling it with your own movements.
Wow, so the robot's learning by example.
Pretty much, yeah. It's pretty wild. And then there's this other method called lead-through programming.
Okay.
And that's where you actually physically guide the robot through the motions.
Interesting.
Like if you wanted to, I don't know, pick up a glass of water, you would take its hand and guide it through the movements.
So it's recording those movements and learning from them.
Exactly.
And then I'm guessing you can also just program it the old-fashioned way, right? With direct commands.
Oh, yeah, of course. You can just tell it what to do, like move your arm left or grab that object, things like that.
So they've given developers a lot of different options.
They really have. And that's one of the things that makes the GR2 so interesting is that it's designed to be really accessible to developers.
Because they've also made the SDK compatible with ROS, right?
Exactly. That's a big deal.
Okay, so for our listeners who might not know, what does that mean? SDK, ROS.
Okay, so the SDK, think of it like a toolbox for developers.
Okay.
And ROS is like the workshop where everybody comes together to build stuff.
I like that.
So by making the GR2 compatible with ROS, Fourier is basically opening it up to a global community of developers.
That's really interesting.
It is. And it means that the GR2 could potentially be used for all sorts of things that Fourier hasn't even thought of yet.
So we could see some really incredible applications for this technology down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
But it also raises some questions about safety and control, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whenever you have a new technology,
Yeah.
especially one as powerful as this, there are always going to be concerns.
So what are some of those concerns? Like, what are people worried about?
Well, for one thing, how do we make sure that these robots are safe to use around people, especially in environments like healthcare, where the stakes are really high?
Right, because you don't want a robot accidentally hurting someone.
Exactly. And then there's the whole question of job displacement. If robots start taking over jobs that are currently done by humans, what happens to those people?
These are really important things to consider.
They are. And I think it's important to have these conversations now before this technology becomes even more widespread.
I agree. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications of this technology right from the start.
Exactly.
Because it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it.
Right. It's about finding a way to integrate this technology into our world in a way that benefits everyone.
Well said. So we've talked about the design, the AI, the safety concerns, but what does it all mean? What's the potential impact of a robot like the GR2?
Right. So it's huge potential, but also some big questions to answer.
Yeah, it's like we're stepping into uncharted territory, kind of exciting, kind of scary. Exactly, but Fourier seems to be approaching this very carefully.
Yeah, they're not rushing into things, which is good.
So what are their plans for the GR2? Like, what's next for this robot?
Well, they're currently working with a bunch of different partners, healthcare professionals, researchers, even potential end users, just to really refine the technology and make sure it's ready for the real world.
Kind of like they did with the GR1.
Exactly. They learned a lot from that first model, and they're applying those lessons to the GR2.
It's like a beta test, but with a super advanced robot.
Right, exactly. And I think that's smart because, with any new technology, there are always going to be unexpected challenges, and it's better to identify those early on.
Definitely. So it sounds like they're really trying to get this right.
Oh, yeah, they're not just throwing it out there and hoping for the best. They want to make sure that the GR2 is actually useful and beneficial.
Which is what it's all about, right? I mean, we've talked about the design, the AI, all the amazing stuff this robot can do, but ultimately it's about how it can be used to improve our lives.
Absolutely. Imagine a world where robots like the GR-2 are helping surgeons perform complex operations, or assisting therapists with patients who need rehabilitation, or even just providing companionship to the elderly. It's incredible to think about.
It really is. And I know some people might be thinking, oh, robots are going to take over the world, but I see it more as, robots and humans working together.
I agree. It's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting our abilities, making us more efficient, more capable, and hopefully making our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, and maybe even helping us to learn more about ourselves along the way.
Absolutely. By studying how these robots learn and interact with the world, we might even gain new insights into our own intelligence and behavior.
It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves, but instead of seeing our reflection, we're seeing the potential of what we've created.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
The GR2, it's not just a technological marvel, it's a glimpse into the future. A future where humans and robots could be working side by side, shaping the world in ways we can only imagine.
And it all starts with a deep dive, exploring the technology, understanding the potential, and asking the tough questions.
And that's what we've tried to do today. Explore the fascinating world of the GR2, from its sleek design to its advanced AI, and everything in between.
It's been a great conversation, and I'm sure we've only scratched the surface of this incredible technology.
That's right. But for now, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the GR2. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.